Hello, seekers of knowledge. Welcome to another episode of Your Pocket DPO, a privacy podcast with your host, Alexandra Stanford. If you are new to the show, I read a privacy policy, break it down, and present it to you. This week, I'm presenting Microsoft's privacy policy, and you do not want to miss that. Microsoft offers a wide range of products, including server products used to help operate enterprises worldwide, devices you use in your home, software that students use at school, and services developers use to create and host what's next. The software, Microsoft Office, is used by more than 1.2 billion people worldwide and is used by both private and public entities. Around 83% of Fortune 500 companies use Microsoft Office 365. In 2022, the Microsoft 365 suite generated $63.36 billion in revenue in the United States. Microsoft has become the productivity tools for entities to track their profits, send correspondence, save photos and documents, and so much more. For many private entities, Microsoft grants them a unilateral license to use its products once a subscription is paid and license agreement accepted. But for public entities, services are obtained through public procurement in which contracts can be negotiated. So, how do data protection laws apply to public entities? Let's get into it. So, up to this point, I have been mainly focused on the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, because it is the general legal framework that regulates data processing by European member states, legal and natural persons within and outside the European borders. This means that data processing by EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies are not regulated by the GDPR. The legal framework that is applicable is EU Regulation 2018-1725, the Regulation on Protection of Personal Data by EU Institutions. This framework conforms to the standards set out by the GDPR. The independent supervisory authority that monitors the processing of personal data by EU institutions and bodies is the European Data Protection Supervisor, the EDPS. The EDPS also advises on policies and legislation that affect privacy and cooperates with similar authorities to ensure consistent data protection. The EDPS's mission is also to raise awareness on risk and protect people's rights and freedoms where their personal data is processed and promote good practices by EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies. In March of 2021, the EDPS opened two investigations. One regarding the use of cloud services provided by Amazon Web Services and Microsoft under Cloud 2 contracts, and the other regarding the use of Microsoft Office 365 by the European Commission. For those that do not know, the European Commission is like the executive branch of a government. It implements the decisions of the European Parliament and the Council of the EU, the two branches of the legislative branch. The European Commission also performs a legislative function by drawing up proposals for new European legislation. This investigation was in response to the Schrems II judgment, which found disproportionate surveillance activities by U.S. authorities. The EDPS wanted to ensure that transfers of personal data to third countries, and in particular the United States, is in accordance with the EU data protection laws, aka the Regulation 2018/1725. The EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies reported that they do transfer personal data to non-EU countries, in particular to the United States, and that the tools and services being used were by large American service providers. Furthermore, the EU institutions, bodies, offices, and agencies relied on cloud based software and cloud infrastructure or platform services from large ICT providers, some of which were based in the United States. This means that the personal data that is being transferred by these services were being disproportionately surveilled by US authorities. Now, in March of this year, 2024, the EDPS found that the European Commission has infringed several key data protection rules, including transfer of personal data outside of the EU EEA area when using Microsoft 365. The Commission failed to provide appropriate safeguards to ensure that personal data transferred outside of the EU EEA area are afforded an essential equivalent level of protection as guaranteed in the EU EEA area. Furthermore, in its contract with Microsoft, the Commission did not sufficiently specify what types of personal data are being collected and for which and specified purpose when using Microsoft 365. On December 9, 2024, the Commission must suspend all data flows resulting from its use of Microsoft 365 to Microsoft and its affiliates and subprocessors located outside of the EU EEA, not covered by an adequacy decision. The EDPS has also decided to order the Commission to bring the processing operations resulting from its use of Microsoft 365 into compliance with EU Regulation 2018-1725. The Commission must demonstrate compliance with both orders by the 9th of December 2024. Many of the infringements found concern all processing operations carried out by the Commission or on his behalf when using Microsoft 365 and impact a large number of individuals. So yes, even the European Commission is not perfect. However, for the European, it is a bit embarrassing. Now, for the answer to the trivia question from last week, which was true or false? Phishing is only done through email. And the statement is false. Phishing attacks can occur through email, phone calls, text, instant messaging, or even social media. Phishing is a type of attack carried out to steal information or money. Attackers have gotten so clever that they have created websites to mimic other websites. Attackers are after your personal information such as usernames, password, credit card information, etc. However, they are also after intellectual property, research data, and institutional information. Phishing scams can have several goals, including stealing from victims, such as modifying direct deposit information or draining their bank accounts, performing identity theft, such as running up charges on credit cards or opening up new accounts, purchasing items, so buying gifts, cards, tricking victims into working on their behalf, and even getting victims to act, such as clicking on malicious links or installing malware on the devices. The first rule is to remember never to give out your personal information in an email. No institution, bank, or otherwise will ask for this information via email. It may not always be easy to tell whether an email or website is legitimate, and phishing emails are using social engineering tactics to create sophisticated scams. Phishing attacks are a constant threat and are becoming increasingly sophisticated. Successful phishing attacks can cause financial loss for victims, put their personal information at risk, or put the institution's data and systems at risk. All workforce members are responsible for protecting institutional data and complying with information security obligations, laws, and governmental regulations. If you're worried about an account, call the organization which maintains it. Also, check the email address. Does it really match the text of the email? Does it match the legitimate email of the organization it's supposed to be tied to? Check the security certificate of any website into which you are entering sensitive data. This should usually begin with https semicolon slash slash. Some browsers will display padlock symbols in the address and status bars. Anything on the website saying it is safe can be falsified and is not verified by the browser you're using, and so shouldn't be trusted. Keep your software current. Install antivirus software. And do not forget to report phishing attacks. You can easily report phishing attacks in Outlook and Gmail, but for suspicious phone numbers and websites, you can report scams to internet service providers, public authorities, and companies that are being impersonated. Stay safe, listeners. Now it is time to present Microsoft's privacy policy. Microsoft has created a separate privacy policy for young people that lists important highlights for them. However, more detailed information is found in the main privacy policy. Furthermore, there is a separate privacy policy for U.S. citizens and residents, which is the U.S. State Data Privacy Notice and the Washington State Consumer Health Data Privacy Policy that provides additional information about the processing of your personal data and your rights under applicable U.S. state data protection laws. Why is Microsoft invading your privacy and processing your personal data? And who gave them permission to do so? Microsoft states that it processes information both automated and manually. Automated methods often are related to and supported by its manual methods. Manual review can be conducted by Microsoft employees or vendors who are working on Microsoft's behalf. Microsoft processes data with your consent and/or as required to provide the products you use, operate its business, meet its contractual and legal obligations, protect the security of its systems and customers, or fulfill other legitimate interests of Microsoft as described in the privacy policy. When personal data is transferred from the European Economic Area, Microsoft does so based on a variety of legal mechanisms in the privacy policy. Microsoft's purposes for using your data are to provide its products, which includes updating, securing, and troubleshooting, as well as providing support. It also includes sharing data when it is required to provide the service or carry out the transactions you request, to improve and develop its products, to personalize its products and make recommendations, to advertise and market to you, which includes sending promotional communications, targeted advertising, and presenting you related offers. And lastly, to operate its business, which includes analyzing its performance, meeting its legal obligations, and developing its workforce and doing research. More details are listed in the privacy policy. So, what data is Microsoft collecting? Microsoft collects data from you through its interactions with you and through its products. You can provide some of this data directly, and Microsoft gets some of it by collecting data about your interactions, use, and experiences with its products. The data Microsoft collects depends on the context of your interactions with Microsoft and the choices you make, including your privacy settings and the products and features you use. Microsoft also obtains data about you from third parties. Microsoft combines data it collects from different contexts. However, Microsoft has built in technological and procedural safeguards designed to prevent certain data combinations where required by law. For users under the age of 13 or specified by law in their jurisdiction, certain Microsoft products and services will either block users under that age or will ask them to obtain consent or authorization from a parent or guardian before they use it, including when creating an account to access Microsoft services. Microsoft will not knowingly ask children under the age to provide more data than is required. Once parental consent or authorization is granted, the child's account is treated much like any other account. The child can access communication services like Outlook and Skype and can freely communicate and share data with other users of all ages. Parent or guardians can change or revoke the consent choices previously made. As the organizer of a Microsoft family group, the parent or guardian can manage a child's information and settings on their family safety page and review and delete a child's data on their privacy dashboard. More details regarding data collection are listed in the privacy policy. How long will Microsoft hold on to your data? Microsoft retains personal data for as long as necessary to provide products and fulfill the transactions you have requested or for other legitimate purposes such as complying with legal obligations, resolving disputes, and enforcing its agreements. Because these needs can vary for different data types, the context of its interactions with you or your use of products, actual retention periods can vary significantly. Other criteria used to determine the retention periods include if customers provide, create, or maintain the data, Microsoft will retain it until they remove it. If there is an automated control, such as the Microsoft Privacy Dashboard, then the customer has access to their data and can delete it at any time. If there is not, a shortened data retention time will generally be adopted. If personal data are of a sensitive type, a shortened retention time would generally be adopted. Bing search queries, which are de identified, are deleted after 6 months, and Cookie ID and other cross session identifiers that are used to identify a particular account or device are deleted after 18 months. If the user provides consent for a longer retention period, data will be retained in accordance with the user's consent. If Microsoft is subject to a legal, contractual, or similar obligation to retain or delete the data will be retained in accordance with mandatory data retention laws in the applicable jurisdiction, government orders to preserve data relevant to an investigation, or will be retained for the purposes of litigation. Conversely, if Microsoft is required by law to remove unlawful content, it will do so. More details are listed in the privacy policy. Who is Microsoft sharing your data with, and where is your data being sent to outside of the European Union? Microsoft shares your personal data with your consent or to complete any transaction or provide any product you have requested or authorized. Microsoft also shared data with Microsoft controlled affiliates and subsidiaries, with vendors working on its behalf when required by law or to respond to legal process, to protect its customers, to protect lives, to maintain the security of its products, and to protect the rights and property of Microsoft and its customers. It should be noted that sharing, as defined under US state data privacy laws, also relates to providing personal data to third parties for personalized advertising purposes. Personal data collected by Microsoft may be stored and processed in your region in the United States and in other jurisdictions where Microsoft or its affiliates, subsidiaries, or service providers operate facilities. Microsoft maintains major data centers in Australia, Austria, Brazil, Canada, Finland, France, Germany, Hong Kong, India, Ireland, Japan, Korea, Luxembourg, Malaysia, the Netherlands, Singapore, South Africa, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Typically, the primary storage location is in the customer's region or in the United States, often with a backup to a data center in another region. The storage locations are chosen in order to operate and provide its services efficiently, improve performance, and create redundancies in order to protect the data in the event of an outage or other problems. Microsoft takes steps to process the data that it collects under this privacy policy and the requirements of applicable law. Microsoft transfers personal data from the European Economic Area, the United Kingdom, and Switzerland to other countries, some of which have not yet been determined by the European Commission to have an adequate level of data protection. When Microsoft engages in such transfers, it uses a variety of legal mechanisms, including contracts such as the standard contractual clauses published by the European Commission. Microsoft complies with the EU US Data Privacy Framework, the UK extension to the EU US Data Privacy Framework, and the Swiss US Data Privacy Framework as set forth by the US Department of Commerce. More details on this are listed in the privacy policy. Usually, for the final part of the privacy policy, I would list your rights and how to exercise them. However, Microsoft does not provide a separate section regarding your rights and how to exercise them. As I near the end of my podcast, it is usually time for my trivia question of the week. But this week, I will not be presenting a trivia question. Next week, I will take a break. But episode 8 will be a special episode. I will be interviewing Dr. Norman Sada, a professor at Carnegie Mellon University. He has created a framework that is related to last week's episode. Join me in 2 weeks and find out what he and his team have accomplished to make our lives much easier in this knowledge economy. And with that, I will close off this week's episode. Thank you once again for sharing your time with me and gaining some data protection knowledge. And wherever you are in the world, I bid you good day, good evening, and good night. Until next time, bye!